This is the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Update with Tom Sullivan, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hi, everyone. I'm Cheyenne Malone. Thanks for tuning in to the U.S. Chamber Small Business Update. The State of American Business is the U.S. Chamber's premier and annual event that recognizes American businesses. Joining us now, we have Tom Sullivan to give us some insight, a little bit of an overview of how it went and what to expect in the future. Welcome.
Well, thank you. It's great to be here.
Kind of give us an overview of the annual event.
Well, thanks. So this is our chance to lay out what our expectations are in the year ahead. And as you know, we represent roughly 3 million businesses in the United States, most of which are small businesses. And our CEO, Suzanne Clark, takes this opportunity to lay out our agenda. This year, it was a little bit different, and it was pretty neat because the introduction of Suzanne was from our America's Top Small Business winner, who you've had on your show, Lillian Wernan, owner of Elderly Instruments in Lansing, Michigan. And she talked a little bit about her journey and how important it is to the community of Lansing, Michigan, for her business to do well. She talked about her employees and then introduced Suzanne, the president and CEO of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Now, when I say it's a little bit different, it was an address that laid out an optimistic picture for business, and it really focused in on a defense of free enterprise. And for the first time since I've been there was no specific policy prescription. She didn't go through the laundry list of tax reform, regulatory reform, et cetera, et cetera. She simply laid out two things, two primary points. The first was this acknowledgement that there's so much negative news out there. We've kind of lost our way when it comes to talking about, as a nation, how pro-business we are because of the business's importance to communities, local economies, and the national economy. So that was first. And that was to lay out kind of this optimistic view of what small businesses mean, what businesses, large and small, working together mean to local communities and the national economy. The second thing was a defense of free enterprise. And this is really where I was really excited to hear Suzanne really narrowing in of what is at stake. And this ability for individuals and individual creativity to create commerce is the fabric of our system. And I'll give you one quote, because I have a bunch of quotes here, but I love this because Suzanne herself was a small business owner. She said, "The miracle of the free enterprise system is that it takes individual potential and force multiplies it for the benefit of all." And that really captures the speech in its entirety. And then we closed out with a panel discussion. The head of the International Franchise Association, IFA, Matt Haller, interviewed College Hunks Hauling Junk.
Oh, I know one of the owners, the guy who founded the company. I know him personally, actually.
Yes,
so that's funny.
So he not only interviewed the founder of College Hunks, but also interviewed a gentleman who started out as a mover and then has his own franchise. Matt dug into, well, what does it mean to be a franchise owner? How did you kind of move up so quickly in the ranks, and really talked about the excitement of job creation and what it means to be successful in your local community. So that's how we closed out the event last week.
Yeah, Nick Friedman from College Hunks is a personal friend, so that's awesome.
Great.
He's such a great story, and it is inspiring. He was so young starting out, and what a moving van. He was going around college campuses as well. How do you think this event left people? Do you feel like they were, you said optimistic, right?
Yeah.
Maybe re-energized?
I think so. I mean, it's a little bit different when you hear from a CEO who herself has been a small business owner, you get this, it's not just a speech, you get
Sure.
this passion and emotion in the words that she says. And because of that, I think you're right. I think people got excited and motivated. And I will say, for her to quote U2's Bono was actually another highlight of the speech. I wrote it down. She said, when she quoted Bono, said, Bono said that I've had an epiphany in recent years. It has upended everything for me in dealing with poverty here and around the world, welfare and foreign aid. They're all Band-Aids. Free enterprise is a cure. Entrepreneurship is the most sure way of development. Now, for me, being an employee of Suzanne's, those words are powerful, but to hear it from Bono was really pretty remarkable. And I think it really fit well into the theme of her entire address.
I bet. And just to have him, speaking to everyone, and just even back to Susan, it shows she's walked the walk, right? So her,
Right.
Story is a testament, and she's been there. And so I think a lot of people can identify with things like that. Beyond recognition, what other opportunities did the event provide for, business to business to connect?
Well, so a lot of it was done virtually.
Okay.
And so this is really the way that we try to have this magnified across the country. First of all, we slice it up into bite-sized pieces and certainly share that vision of what a pro-business agenda looks like with our friends in Congress and with the White House. We also, we have this network of 1,600 state and local chambers of commerce. And so these words then kind of come through those local chambers, and depending on what a local chamber is doing, they'll then explain about the connectivity with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and then it multiplies the message. And so we are hoping that more pro-business advocates feel empowered to rise up and become more involved. So that was a key part of Suzanne's ask. And that ask was, join us in being a pro-business nation. And so a lot of that movement, that grassroots swell, hopefully will come through our partners in the local and state chambers of commerce.
And as we go into the new year, obviously we're already started, what should business owners keep in mind, small business owners?
Well, I know we love saying, well, since the pandemic or compared to the pandemic, I mean, it's part of how we try to compare different parts of our economy. But very few people get the fact that we've been in a worker shortage for 6 years. So the pandemic was 4 years ago, but the worker shortage started actually 6 years ago. Now, because you're a part of a small business yourself and you advocate for small businesses, but a lot of folks don't realize that the worker shortage has become baked into how small businesses try and grow. And I think what we're going to see in this coming year, first of all, we're going to see increased attention or continued attention to cash flow. And never before in our history have we seen such attention by small business owners to their cash flow. And if things aren't producing revenue, then they get thrown in the shredder. And they have really focused on things that are creating revenue and then ditching everything else. I think what we're going to start seeing more of is the discussion of small business owners. How do I grow without adding employees? Whether it's adding more 1071 independent contractors, whether it's adopting technology to try to take the place of additional employees, whatever it is, I think we're going to hear more of that discussion throughout 2024, because as we see the majority of small businesses from our MetLife Small Business Index, the majority of small businesses are positive about their cash flow. But they're also pragmatic about not being able to find, hire, and keep their best employees. So they really have no choice. If they want to be in a growth mode, they've got to start thinking about ways to do that without adding employees. And I think that's going to be a major topic of discussion throughout 2024.
And a continued discussion as well. Any final thoughts you have for us, Tom?
Well, I really just want to echo Suzanne's message of optimism. In 2023, we saw the largest growth of new business starts ever. I think 5.5 million new business applications for employer identification numbers. So even though we tend to focus on fixing things that are wrong, there's a lot to be optimistic about. That it was the key part of Suzanne's message. And I think it's part of the message we bring to us in 2024. There's a lot of positive things happening. And with that type of numbers, that type of growth, I think 2024 is going to be a great year.
Why do you think there was such a big increase in 2023?
The bump started 4 months after the pandemic started. So March, April, May, June, July. So July, August 2020, we started to see the numbers going up. A lot of folks thought that it's because of the pandemic cash that went out. So many people thought, well, I've always wanted to be my own boss and I got $20,000, $30,000 from the federal government. So this is the time to do it. I think that that's worn off. Yeah. And I think that in 2023, especially, we saw this incredible creativity and innovation by small businesses that want to solve problems, because there's a lot of problems that have to be solved still. I think that overtook the cash influx. And that's one of the reasons why we've seen such a big increase in small business growth over the last year. And last but not least, the ability to work twice as many hours, but be your own boss has always really captured the imagination and dreams of America's entrepreneurs. And I think we saw that big time in 2023.
And I do think, people are out there like, hey, if my neighbor can do it, why can't I?
Yeah, competition.
And,
competition is good.
Exactly. And it's not so far out of reach, especially with the help from folks like yourself. Tom Sullivan, Vice President of the Small Business Policy at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for your time today.
Cheyenne, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Small Business Update with Tom Sullivan.